Emily Parker thought she knew every detail of her husband's life until a late-night discovery revealed that Daniel, the charming architect loved by neighbors and friends, was hiding a secret so dark it would shatter their perfect world and expose a predator living right beside her. Emily Parker always believed her life was the kind people envied from afar. Every morning she woke to the soft hum of birds outside the window of their cozy two-story home, sunlight spilling across the pale blue walls they had painted together the summer after their wedding. Her husband, Daniel, seemed like the sort of man who never left a task unfinished. He was a respected architect, careful with details and endlessly patient, a presence that drew trust from neighbors and co-workers alike. Friends often teased Emily about her good fortune, calling Daniel the kind of husband who still opened doors and remembered anniversaries. To anyone looking in, they were the quiet proof that love and stability could endure. Yet, even the most polished surfaces sometimes hide fine cracks. Emily began noticing small things that didn't fit the picture she cherished. At first, it was the faint chemical smell clinging to Daniel's clothes when he returned from late nights at the office. He brushed it off as paint or glue from building models, and Emily accepted it with only a flicker of doubt. Then came the late-night phone calls that he answered in another room, speaking in a low, measured voice before quickly ending the conversation. When she asked who it was, he would smile and mention a client with a last-minute question, his explanation smooth and unwavering. One evening, while cleaning his study, she found a desk drawer secured with a heavy lock. It seemed unusual for Daniel, who normally left his work scattered and accessible. When she teased him about keeping secrets, he simply laughed and said some architectural plans needed extra protection. His tone was warm, but something about the way his eyes lingered on the drawer unsettled her. Over the weeks that followed, Emily tried to silence the unease building in her chest. She baked more, worked longer hours at her bakery, and busied herself with the ordinary rhythms of life. But the sense of something hidden began to grow heavier, like a low, distant thundercloud that refused to break. Friends still praised their perfect marriage, and Emily smiled through the conversations, careful not to reveal the quiet questions forming in her mind. She loved her husband, yet a quiet, persistent thought began to echo whenever she looked at him across the dinner table. There was more to Daniel than he allowed her to see, and whatever it was, it waited just beneath the calm surface of their seemingly ordinary life. Rain drummed steadily against the windows the night the first real clue revealed itself. A sudden crack of thunder silenced the neighborhood, and the power blinked out, plunging the house into darkness. Emily groped through the hall for a flashlight, remembering that Daniel often kept spare candles in his study. The room smelled faintly of varnish and something metallic, an odd mix that made her stomach tighten. She aimed her phone's light toward the desk and noticed the drawer, always locked, was slightly open, as if someone had hurried to close it and failed. Her pulse quickened as she reached for the handle, her fingers trembling in the cold air. Inside lay a small black notebook, its edges frayed as though carried everywhere. She opened it carefully, the paper, rough and worn, filled with hurried sketches of unfamiliar houses and narrow alleys. Between the sketches, she spotted strings of numbers and dates written in a cramped hand, many of them smudged as though erased and rewritten. None of it looked like the neat architectural drawings Daniel usually produced. Beneath the notebook sat a bundle of receipts for large cash withdrawals, amounts far beyond their usual expenses. Emily recognized the bank's logo and the dates several transactions had been made in the past few weeks, but she could not recall any corresponding purchases or discussions. Her mind raced with possibilities, each one darker than the last. Was Daniel involved in something illegal? Gambling? Hiding debt? She pulled out her phone and snapped quick photos of every page and receipt, the camera's shutter muffled beneath the storm's rumble. Each click felt like a betrayal, yet she couldn't stop. She replaced the items exactly as she'd found them, easing the drawer shut and turning away with a shaky breath. The rest of the night stretched endlessly. Emily sat on the edge of their bed, listening to the rain and the slow ticking of the clock, wondering how to confront the questions swirling in her mind. When Daniel finally returned, soaked from the storm, he smiled as though nothing in the world was amiss. He spoke of delays at the office and traffic on the highway, his voice calm and measured. Emily nodded along, masking the anxiety that coiled tighter inside her. The evidence was undeniable, yet she clung to the hope that there might be a harmless explanation. But as she lay awake long after he fell asleep, the memory of those strange sketches and coded dates refused to fade, whispering that the life she thought she knew might already be slipping away. Emily's unease sharpened into resolve as the week unfolded, each ordinary moment feeling like a thin veil over something dangerous. She watched Daniel with a quiet intensity, memorizing his patterns: early mornings, late returns, the way he carefully erased call logs on his phone. One Saturday, when he casually mentioned a last-minute client meeting on the far side of town, she sensed an opportunity. Pretending to have a full day of baking orders, she kissed him goodbye and waited a few minutes before slipping into her car to follow at a cautious distance. The drive stretched beyond familiar streets into a desolate industrial area where empty warehouses lined cracked asphalt. Daniel's car finally slowed near a rusted metal building, its windows grimy and half-boarded. He parked and disappeared inside without hesitation. Emily eased her car behind a cluster of abandoned trailers and crept closer on foot, her heart hammering with each step. The air smelled of damp concrete and old oil, the silence broken only by the distant echo of dripping water. Through a narrow window smeared with dust, she peered into a dimly lit space that chilled her to the core. Daniel stood at a workbench beneath a single hanging bulb, carefully arranging tools and small containers of chemicals. The walls were lined with maps, peppered with red pins and marked with scribbled notes she couldn't decipher. More disturbing were the photographs, dozens of them tacked to a corkboard, each showing a different woman. Some pictures were candid, taken in grocery store parking lots or along quiet sidewalks, their faces unaware of the camera. Thick black lines slashed across many of the images, as if someone had crossed them out with deliberate force. Emily's breath caught as a cold wave of disbelief and fear washed over her. The man she had shared a life with for years, the husband whose quiet smile she trusted, was standing in the center of something she could not comprehend. She pressed a hand to her mouth to stifle a gasp and forced herself to back away, each movement careful and slow. Her mind screamed to confront him, yet instinct told her to leave unseen. By the time she returned to her car, her legs felt numb. The drive home blurred into a haze of streetlights and panic. Every memory of their life together, holidays, gentle conversations, the comfort of his presence now flickered with a sinister light. Whatever Daniel was hiding, it wasn't just a private obsession. It was something far darker, something that threatened to shatter the carefully built world she thought was safe. Sleep became a distant memory as Emily pieced together what she had witnessed. The images on the warehouse wall haunted her every moment, surfacing when she poured coffee or greeted a customer at the bakery. She waited until Daniel left for work each day, then sat at the kitchen table with her laptop, her phone filled with the photographs she had taken of the strange notebook. Determined to make sense of it all, she began cross-referencing every date and number against local news archives. One by one, a pattern emerged, and the realization tightened like a vice around her chest. Each date matched the disappearance of a woman from a nearby town, and the sketches in the notebook mirrored the neighborhoods where they were last seen. The precision of it all was impossible to dismiss as coincidence. Emily's mind raced with questions. How long had this been happening? How could Daniel leave their home each morning, kiss her goodbye, and hide something so monstrous? She replayed years of memories, noticing small moments she had ignored, unexplained late nights, sudden weekend trips, the careful way he avoided certain conversations. Now every detail seemed to fit into a sinister puzzle she wished she had never started to solve. Despite her growing terror, Emily knew she had to continue gathering proof. She photographed the notebook pages again in better light and saved the images in multiple hidden folders. She collected stray receipts from Daniel's jacket pockets, each revealing more unexplained cash withdrawals. Even the faint chemical stains she discovered on his laundry became part of her careful documentation. Each act of quiet investigation felt like walking a razor's edge. She forced herself to smile through dinners and casual conversations, pretending nothing had changed while her heart pounded with the fear of discovery. At night, she rehearsed how she might go to the authorities, but doubt lingered like a shadow. What if they dismissed her claims as paranoia? What if confronting him directly triggered something worse? She lay awake listening to Daniel's steady breathing beside her, wondering whether the man she once trusted completely was capable of unimaginable violence. The house around them remained still, yet every sound, the creak of a floorboard, the hum of the refrigerator, felt charged with hidden danger. Emily understood that she could no longer rely on the life she once believed in. The quiet, familiar rooms of their home had become a stage for a dark secret, and every passing day drew her closer to a decision that would change everything. The decision to act settled over Emily like a heavy cloak she could no longer shake off. She gathered every shred of evidence in silence, moving with deliberate care, while Daniel remained unaware. Photos of the coded notebook, screenshots of bank records, and even tiny swabs of the strange chemical residue from his laundry were saved on a hidden flash drive. Each step felt both empowering and terrifying. She avoided eye contact at breakfast, spoke in calm tones during dinner, and forced her hands not to tremble whenever he reached across the table. Every moment spent near him now felt like standing inches from a live wire, waiting for the spark. One crisp morning, she walked into the local police station with the flash drive tucked deep in her pocket. Her voice barely wavered as she explained what she had discovered, showing the photographs and notes she had compiled. The officers listened carefully, their expressions tightening as they scrolled through the images. Without revealing details, they assured her they would investigate immediately and asked her to continue her routine as if nothing had changed. Emily left the station with a strange mix of dread and relief, the weight of secrecy now shared but the danger far from over. Over the next week, plainclothes detectives began discreet surveillance. Emily pretended not to notice when unmarked cars lingered near their street or when subtle questions arose about Daniel's schedule. She avoided giving any hint that their world was unraveling. Meanwhile, Daniel grew more restless, leaving the house at odd hours and returning with a focus that chilled her. Each evening, Emily wondered if the police would arrive too late, if another name would be added to the list of missing women before they intervened. The break came late on a Friday night. Authorities had tracked Daniel to the very warehouse where Emily had first seen his secret life. Officers stormed the building and uncovered a meticulously organized space filled with stolen personal belongings, jewelry, scarves, and photographs of the missing women. Detailed plans for another abduction were spread across the workbench. Daniel was arrested on the spot, his calm demeanor unnerving even the most seasoned detectives. News of the capture rippled through the community, neighbors struggling to reconcile the polite architect with the predator hidden beneath. Emily watched from her porch as flashing lights faded into the darkness, her heart heavy but steady. She had uncovered the truth and saved lives, yet the knowledge of who Daniel truly was would remain a shadow she could never fully escape, a reminder that evil can hide behind the most familiar smile.